Assalamu alaikum friends. Today we'll be talking on breeder farm and hatchery management, a very important aspect of poultry sciences and poultry management. As far as breeder farm management is concerned, the main goal of management of a breeder farm is that we want to maximize number of chicks per dam. In case of hybrid broiler chicks, we should be able to obtain 160 saleable chicks, and in case of hybrid pullet chicks, we should be able to obtain 140 saleable chicks. There are number of factors which determine this thing, that is how the number of chicks that can be obtained per dam. The factors include number of eggs produced, then quality of those eggs in terms of shape, size, soundness, then fertility, then collection, storage and transportation of those hatching eggs, then hatching performance, be it in terms of hatchability on total egg set or hatchability on fertile egg set. Then of course chick quality is also very, very important. Then about this how we can get more number of chicks per dam. As far as broiler parent stock is concerned, more the number of chicks we get per dam, better is the profitability of that parent stock and associated hatchery. In India, the broiler chick production per dam ranges between 135 to 170 up to 68 weeks of age, whereas in other countries it varies between 130 to 155 chicks only. The breed of the parent stock, the housing practices, the management practices, nutrition, the flock health, all these things, they will determine the number as well as the quality of the chicks produced. With good management practices and body weight control plus force molting, the breeding stock can be economically maintained even beyond 90 weeks to obtain additional 35 to 40 chicks per dam. As this number of chicks per dam increases, the cost of production per chick decreases. There are various factors that will determine this thing. These factors include certain genetic factors, then management factors, the health related factors, and of course the nutritional factors. Now coming down to genetics, the dam lines which we are using, they need to be selected for high intensity of lay, early sexual maturity, better fecundity, persistency, lack of broodiness, and large clutch size. Similarly, sire lines have to be selected for better semen quality and volume. The sires should have broader and longer breasts, better feed efficiency, superior carcass quality, and faster growth. And then these birds or the parent stock should be free from Marek's disease, mycoplasma. They should be salmonella resistant. All these things can be genetically determined. Then coming to the management factors, here the most important thing is that we have to maintain the body weight of the parent stock, which is being reared. There are several factors that will determine the body weight. These include the hatch weight of the chicks, the health status, density, rearing methods, system of feeding, feeding regimen, and the nutrition. As far as management of the chicks is concerned, it is always preferable that we should obtain hatching eggs rather than day-old chicks when we are obtaining a fresh parent stock, because if we obtain it in form of day-old chicks, then there is long distance transportation, etc., dehydration, etc., that will affect the quality of the parent stock. Then we need to study the breeder manual completely, and if we do not, we have to follow entire breeder manual. Of course, we can tune it to our conditions, but broadly we need to follow the breeder manual in full. Then we have to carry out various operations like debeaking, vaccination, deworming, grading, shifting, clipping of feathers, semen collection, all whatever the operations are there. They have to be completed on time and should not be postponed. Then the lighting programs, whether it is step down or step up lighting program, depending upon our conditions, that need to be followed. Early chick feeding is to be practiced. Then all types of citruses, be it vaccination, debeaking, shifting, grading, or even seasonal citruses like summer, winter citruses, they are to be minimized. And of course, the fly problems in our farms, they should be controlled. They also can cause citrus, and we can use 1% cyramazine once in a month. Then as told earlier also, the flock uniformity is a key. There should be very less variation between the birds. The poor uniformity if uniformity is not proper, some birds they will feed lesser, other birds they will overfeed, and uniform flock always reaches to a maturity in time, and it also reaches peak egg production at the same time. And the heavier birds come to maturity earlier, they will collapse later, and weaker birds will never pick up and may die soon due to pecking, starvation, etc. Therefore, we need to start grading at 4 weeks or even earlier, and every month we should practice this grading. Here we weigh the birds, we separate the heavier birds and the lighter birds, and then we give an extra increment of feed to the lighter birds so that they come up, their body weight increases, and they catch up with the heavier birds. Subjecting the heavier birds to starvation, it should be practiced very less. It is better to increase the body weight of the lighter birds towards higher side. We need to combine this grading operations with other operations like vaccination or shifting program so as to minimize the citrus. Then coming to flock health, we need to prepare a vaccination schedule based on disease prevalent in the area and carry out all vaccination programs as per schedule. We need to minimize citrus during vaccination by doing it in cooler hours. We can use vaccines of reputed companies which are within the date, and then we can give immunomodulators like levomizole, etc. before vaccination. Toxin-free feed has to be given because these toxins interfere with immunity. We need to eliminate salmonella, mycoplasma, and other vertically transmissible diseases. We need to select the breeder lines which is resistant to Marek's disease and perform Marek's disease vaccination in parent stocks efficiently so that not only the parents but also the commercial chicks, they also will be protected against the Marek's disease. We can also go for use of acidifiers, prebiotics, probiotics, and antibiotics to control diseases. And as far as possible, we should avoid injections, particularly the antibiotics like gentamicin and enrosine. Then the most important factor, that is the nutrition, we have to take care during the restricted feeding. During restricted feeding, we have to provide ample feeding space so that all the birds, they get right amount of feed. Sex separate feeding should be practiced. The males need to be given low protein and high vitamin E diet for better semen quality and volume. Females need to be provided 50% more micronutrients for better hatchability and chick quality. Vitamin E, B12, B2, biotin, manganese, zinc, they are very critical and very important for embryonic development and better hatchability. They need to be incorporated in the diets. Then toxin feed has to be provided to the breeders, because very low levels of toxins also, they may not cause any problem, but they will affect the embryos and they will result in poor hatchability. Vitamin C needs to be added at 200 grams per ton to minimize stress and maximize immunity. Herbal liver tonics at double dose may be added in the feed to strengthen liver and reduce toxicity for optimal egg production. So this was something about nutrition. Now we will come to the hatching egg care for better hatchability. Here, before going for the hatching egg care, we need to recollect that there is a difference between poultry reproduction and the animal reproduction. Here in poultry, the fertilization happens in the infant debulum, but the embryonic development, it does not occur in uterus, but the egg is laid and it happens outside the body of the hen. So there is no supply of maternal blood to the embryon, to the developing embryo. For supply of oxygen, nutrients, immunoglobulins, etc., and for removal of carbon dioxide and waste products, there is no connection with the maternal blood. All these things happen outside in the egg. The chicken, they lay eggs. They can lay eggs without fertilization also. This is very important. And since there is no direct maternal care during embryonic development, the embryo has to in a way take care of itself. The nature has provided in an egg, all the arrangements are there. There is a hard protective covering, the shell and shell membranes. There is the storage of adequate nutrients needed for development of embryo, yolk, albumin and shell. Maternal immunity, for maternal immunity, there are immunoglobulins in yolk. Then there is an antibacterial activity of this lysozyme enzyme and some other things in the albumin. Then respiration occurs through the pores which are provided in the shell, and for the waste removal there is allantois. Then various factors affect the hatchability. Certain factors, they come to play at a breeder farm. These include fertility, genetic factors, nutrition and diseases, and some other factors, they come into play at hatchery. These include egg selection, handling of hatching eggs and incubation conditions. Now coming to the collection of hatching eggs. If the environmental temperatures are less than 30 degrees centigrade, then we can go for 3 times a day collection. But if the environmental temperatures are higher, we should collect eggs more often, maybe even 5 times a day. Then the egg laying area or the egg nests, they should be quite clean, and after collection of the eggs, they should be immediately transferred to the egg storeroom or the cold room. Then selection of the hatching eggs is very important. We need not to select excessively large eggs or excessively small eggs, cracked eggs, thin-shelled eggs or misshapen eggs. The large eggs, again, the hatchability is poor. The eggs are small. Even if they hatch, they will yield a very small chick. Then if the eggs are cracked or thin-shelled eggs, there is more moisture loss and there is every apprehension of penetration of microbes. The hatching eggs, therefore, we need to keep them clean, but while keeping them clean, we need not to wash them or wipe them because it removes the cuticle. Again, we should not use any abrasives for cleaning the eggs, and we should not allow the moisture to collect over the eggs, because that can lead to the microbial contamination. Now, as far as storage of these eggs is concerned, the ideal temperature for storing the eggs is 65 degrees Fahrenheit and relative humidity is 75%. And during this storage, the eggs are to be stored with broad end up. If we have to store those eggs for more than 10 days, then we can even store with a narrow end up. But most preferable storage period is about a week. If we store them beyond 3 weeks, there are chances of getting zero hatchability. We have at our farm also tried to find out the duration of what is the ideal duration of storage. In that study, we could find out that if we set very fresh eggs, that is without any storage, they also do not yield good hatchability. But from second 2 days storage onwards up to 8th day or 7th day of storage, there is although there is a decline every day, by every passing day there is a decline in hatchability, but that decline is not significant. Beyond 8th day or beyond 7th day, there is a sharp decline in hatchability. So the ideal period of storage is, we can say, is 1 week. Then one more practice is the warming of eggs prior to setting. When we want to set the eggs, we bring them out of the cold storage. Since the eggs are cold, the moisture will settle on the eggs, and that moisture and plus the eggs being cold, that will reduce the temperature to a large extent in the setter if they are directly set without warming. So the eggs are got out of the storage and put in that setter room for 6 to 8 hours. This will dry the moisture, if at all there is some on the eggs that has condensed on the eggs, and then it will bring the temperature of the eggs to the normal temperature. Say we have to raise the temperatures at least from that 65 degree Fahrenheit where they are stored to at least 100 degree Fahrenheit, and then put them inside the setters. Then coming to the environments in setter and hatcher, the temperature in the setter should be 37.5 to 37.7 degrees centigrade, which is 99.5 to 99.8 degree Fahrenheit. In hatcher, it should be 36.1 to 37.2 degrees centigrade, which is 97 to 99 degree Fahrenheit. 0.5 degree increase in temperature can cause early hatching, increased dehydration in smaller chicks. More than that, that is more than 0.5 degree centigrade increase in temperature, will result in sharp drop in hatchability, rough navels, and weak chicks. 46 degrees centigrade temperature for 3 hours or 50 degrees centigrade for 1 hour can result into 100% mortality. As far as humidity in setter and hatcher is concerned, the higher the incubation temperature, there will be lot of loss of moisture. However, setter relative humidity has to be 50 to 60%. That is 84 to 86 degree Fahrenheit wet bulb reading, and hatcher relative humidity should be 75%. That is 90 to 92 degree Fahrenheit wet bulb reading. Humidity is adjusted with the loss of weight. There should be a loss of weight up to 0.6% per day, which accounts for 11.5% total loss for 19 days. You can see here in the diagram the egg contents shrinking day by day from the 7th day, then 14th day and 18th day. The egg contents are shrinking because the moisture is being constantly lost from the egg. Low humidity can be problematic, and high humidity also can be problematic. Low humidity leads to sticky embryos, short down, malformed and malpositioned chicks, weak chicks, small chicks, and high humidity can lead to soft-bodied, mushy chicks, more deaths on hatcher trays. Then ventilation. Since the embryo is developing, there is a lot of oxygen intake and carbon dioxide is given off. Initial respiration, it is taken care of by the vitelline blood circulation. From 4th day to till pipping, the allantois takes care of the ventilation. The oxygen content of the air normally is 21%. If there is 1% drop in oxygen content, it affects hatchability. Similarly, tolerance level of carbon dioxide in the setter is up to 0.5%. Tolerance level of carbon dioxide in hatcher is up to 0.75%. 1% carbon dioxide, it reduces hatchability, and 5% carbon dioxide, it can prove completely lethal. Then one more aspect that we have to take care of is the turning. This turning of the eggs is a natural instinct in nesting birds. The reason behind this turning is that the yolk has having low specific gravity and it floats on the albumin. Therefore, there is an every chance that the embryo will stick to the shell membranes and it can cause embryonic mortality. In still air incubators, the turnings can be at least 2 turnings should be done in a day, while as in the forced draft incubators, a turning should be done every hour. It is required for 18 days only and not for the last 3 days. As far as position is concerned, the eggs are kept with broad end up, because while keeping the eggs broad end up, the head develops near the broad end where there is an air cell. So when the egg has to hatch, it will take its first breath from the air cell and then it will get the energy to break the shell. If the eggs are loaded with small end up, the most of the 60% of the embryos, they develop with their head towards the small end, and then there are the problems in pipping, and this can result in lesser hatchability. Then one more aspect which we need to consider is the hatch window. This hatch window, or we call it as hatch spread, this is a time taken from the time when there is 5% hatch, 5% of the chicks hatched to complete pull out. The optimum hatch window is 20 to 24 hours, but most often it is 36 hours or even more. The shorter the hatch window, better it is, because longer hatch window, it leads to non-uniformity in those chicks, and then ultimately the flock which comes from those DOCs is also not uniform. Here we have tried to work out the economics of this longer hatch window. If there is a longer hatch window or longer hatch spread, this will lead to dehydrated chicks causing poor FCR. There is 0.4 points decrease in FCR. And assuming that incubator capacity is 10,000 and chicks produced in a year will be 5,20,000, and if there is a difference of 4 points in FCR, which means 60 grams of feed, assuming that final body weight of that broiler is 1.5 kg, so from 5,20,000 birds, it amounts to 31,200 kgs of feed worth 9,36,000. So this is the economic impact of this one factor, that is the hatch window. Now finally, when the chick has hatched out, we need to know that how does a good chick look like. The good chick should be large, alert, alive and vital. It should have long, well-developed big eyes, large beak, well-developed feathers, small yolk residue approximately 2 to 4 grams, well-closed navels, no membranes stitching to its down, and it should not look exhausted and should not have any difficulty in standing. Here in these diagrams we are showing what the poor quality chick looks like. It gives a dehydrated look. Then there are some red marks on the hocks particularly. Then there can be improper navel closure, and there can be hemorrhages on the beak. This is all about the parent stock management and hatchability. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you so much.